Thanks for having us.
Kim and Joe Trinidad with Bexar Essentials and Remodeling. Yeah, I just kind of put this up near you because unless you're loud, some people are loud and just naturally don't need a microphone. So like the synergy between you two, husband-wife team, is something I've admired, and I think that's encouraging because I have, my wife that helps me in my business as well, and it's rare to find these husband-wife teams that can collaborate and share vision and make their dreams come true. So talk to me about how that's been. I know you all just started kind of in your journey a few years ago, right?
Yeah, well, we've been in business since 2010, but I didn't join until 2018.
I didn't know you were started in 2010, really?
Yeah, right around the time that we started BNI, that's when Kim came on board with us.
Mm-hmm.
But you started BNI in 2017? 18? Oh, okay. But you had started off on your own before that. I didn't know that.
I was mainly hands-on back then.
Okay.
Yep.
We're going to make you talk, Joe. Okay, so
I'm going to try.
Break the ice. Do you need a shot of whiskey or something?
Maybe.
No. But so I didn't know that. So I know you had mentioned before you were worked for a couple different contracting companies or a granite company. And
yeah, granite and tile. Mm-hmm.
I always like to hear how people started off, right? Like what was the catalyst? What was the moment that you said, okay, I need to start doing this for myself?
Yeah, well, it wasn't the way I wanted it because back in 2008 when the market crashed, I was working for a well-known granite company here in town, and since I was really high on the totem pole, I was the first one to let go.
Ooh.
So I had to take on another job doing kind of the same thing for half the money I was making. So I told Kim, I said, I got to make ends meet now. So I started just doing handyman stuff on the weekends and time off, and that's how we made things happen. So that's pretty much the need behind Bexar Essentials Remodeling.
Oh, because we have 5 children.
Yeah.
So who like to eat, and so it was a necessity. Like we, to supplement the income. He did it on the side while I worked full time as well.
Well, it was never like the right time, right? And if you feel like when I went off on my own, I had just had my 3rd son, and that was one of the scariest moments of my life because I knew I had another mouth to feed, first of all, and just an obligation. But at the same time, that's what drove me to do what I wanted to do, because I knew that if I wanted to, build my dreams or, leave a legacy for my kids, I had to kind of get out from underneath this,
your comfort zone. You have to step outside your comfort zone.
You have to do something different. This is part of why I'm doing this now also, is because it's a little different than, I've always been somewhat private for the most part. I mean, social media, and you guys are great on that, first of all. I know you all have a great sense of humor. And
well, it's a work in progress. I'm learning. I'm not great at technology, but I'm trying to learn.
We're not,
right?
But I think this is essentially what we need to do, not only to brand ourselves, but, if we're going to be more open about who we are, I think it gives clients a better opportunity to learn more about you, right? Because, you look at, Yellow Pages of the old school, right? Or if you look at any of the online ads and you say X company, it's like, well, what are you going off of? You go off of reviews mostly now. But if you have a platform where you can at least maybe communicate with your potential clients and let them know kind of who you are, what you are, and what you believe in, I think that's the important thing. And
it is.
My biggest goal with this is to, for sure, like just be able to kind of shed some light on some of my colleagues and get them some, promote them basically, right? Who are you? Why are you doing what you're doing, right? What's your goal? What's your vision? So this is really cool. So this is outside the comfort zone, like you said, but it's never a good time, or it feels like it's never the right time to step out and do something different. You just have to do it.
You just have to do it.
Yeah.
And that's like with me leaving my job and joining the company. He, like you said, he did it on his own for 8 years and had a helper, just him and a helper. And I was working for, my background is in aesthetics, and I was working for a doctor, and I was handling his sales and his marketing, but he just was not good to me or to anyone who worked for him, for that matter. And I would come home crying and just be so upset. But on the side, I would tell him, "Oh, you should do this or you should do that to promote the business." And because I believed in him so much, because I knew he's so talented and he's got that background in engineering, so he's a problem solver too. So he's very good at doing things, like building things, doing things, and having great ideas. And so I would tell him that, and he's like, "I don't have time to do that." And I knew that was kind of the missing piece. And so when I would come home upset, he finally one day he's like, why are you doing this to yourself? Why? Well, it was because I made a lot of money, right? So, I mean, a lot for us, you know, it might not be to everybody's standards, but it was a lot to us. And it allowed him to be able to take the time to build that business because I had a good income that was coming in. And so that's kind of what happened too, just to kind of backtrack a little bit, is he was doing this as a handyman, working for someone else. And I said those exact same words to him. I said, you need to take the leap. You are too talented and work too hard to make somebody else rich. You are building that person's company. Why don't you do this full time? I'll work extra. I'll do whatever. And I was in commission sales, so I was doing well. I was like, I'll carry the insurance on the kids. I'll do that. I need you to take this leap.
Wow.
And that was in 2010. And so from 2008 to 2010, he kind of just did it part-time on the side. But in 2010, I'm like, it's time. And so he did. And then from 2010 to 2008, he spent, doing things, and I was working. But again, I was in a place in my life where I was unhappy. And so he's like, why are you doing this? Why are you making somebody else rich? Why don't you come sell for us and market for us? All the things you tell me to do that I don't have time to do, you can do. And I was like, I don't know anything about construction. And he's like, well, you don't know until you know, right?
Right.
And so he said, and we kind of played around with the idea. I put my notice in. They talked me into staying. 2 months later, that lasted 2 months later, I came home crying again. And he's like, that's it. That's enough. You're going to go in tomorrow and you're going to quit. I was like, put in my notice. He's like, no, because they'll talk you into staying. You're going to go in and you're going to quit. And then I want you to go get in your car and I want you to call me when you leave. So I did. 10 o'clock in the morning, I'm driving and I'm like, I did it. And he's like, where are you? And I'm like, I'm just driving. I don't know where people go at 10 a.m. in the morning. I'm always at work. I don't know what to do.
Joe's like, come to the bar over here.
There's nobody on the road. Like, this is so weird. Where's everybody at? And he was like, okay, well, just come meet me and you're going to get in the truck with me and I'm going to drive you around. I'm going to show you what I do all day. Wow. And that's how it started. And I got in the truck and I was just a nervous wreck. I never have I not worked really, worked for someone. And so I said, do you think we can do this? And he said, I'll never forget. He said, we have no choice. We are going to do this.
Nice.
And so that's just been our motto, we're going to do it.
And that's what I admire about you guys, because obviously you've got that synergy and that connection and that bond that pushes each other. And I mean, this woman right here, I think, is obviously helped elevate you as well.
Oh, for sure.
And vice versa. I mean, it's important because people don't realize in business, you hear it all the time. It's like, oh yeah, these guys, they're doing pretty good, but they don't know the backstories. They don't know all those sleepless nights and, the times you're trying to figure out payroll. And, we've all been through that. And it's these challenges in any industry, really, that sometimes you have to go through. And and for me, I think that's what makes you resilient, right? Because if you don't kind of get through those, sometimes people quit and they fail and they do something else. And that's not a bad thing, because maybe this isn't your calling.
It's not for everybody.
Right. Yeah. But what I like to hear is those stories where people do push through and get through, because for me, that's encouraging, especially for other entrepreneurs, and we know a lot of people that are starting their ventures at a, I always say seasoned age, but and it's scary for them.
Seasoned. I like that.
Well, I'm seasoned also.
Vintage.
But the thing is, like, what sucks is like doing something you don't like to do.
Right.
Being in a place you're not happy.
You're stuck.
And I don't think life is meant to be lived that way.
No.
Pursue your passion, pursue your goals. And it's not about the money, in my opinion. It's about waking up every day, getting excited to go out and do it, right? Coming home at night, being excited. Do you have your stresses, your moments of, frustrations? Of course. But, nothing's better than being able to lay down your head on your pillow at night, looking forward for the next day to do it. And that's what's awesome. You guys' business, especially with the remodeling, and the kitchen and bath I know is what you specialize in, right?
Yes, what we specialize in.
So did you have a design background already, or?
No, my background's in aesthetics. Yeah. I've always had kind of a good eye, but so I can, kind of transfer that over into here. That was never I don't say that was ever our goal. I don't know. No. We've kind of evolved. I don't know. When I say never our goal for me to design or whatever, I've always had, kind of a good eye. And it just, again, was kind of born out of necessity. I would look and I would just see evolved things. And so what makes us a little different too? Yes, we're a husband and wife team. But when you talk about construction, bringing a woman's perspective into it is very different. Women look at things, very different than men do, right? So I think that also helps us it just makes us a little different. But what I saw was missing and what I didn't understand, because I didn't know any better, because I didn't have the background, right, in construction. So what I thought was missing is Joe would go do an estimate or whatever, and I'd started going with him, and it would be like, okay, here's what, here's how much we can do this for, and they're like, okay, so where do I get tile? What's next? He's like, well, pick out what you want and then let us know. And I think so many construction companies do that. Right. And I could see in the women's eyes, they were just like glazed over, like, what? There's nobody to guide me. And at the time we did have some designers. Well, we have a designer if you want to work with them. Right. But some projects are not big enough that they need a designer or whatever. And so, I don't know, we just kind of started talking, and I was like, no, we need to help them. Like they're looking for help. Right. Maybe not to the point if we're just doing, new countertops, floor, shower, nothing spectacular in a small bathroom. They don't need a designer. We're not changing the foot plan, but they need some help. Right. And so, I was like, he was like, well, can you help them? Well, sure, I can help them. And so I was going, okay, let's meet at 10 a.m. at Floor and Decor or whatever. And you could see me running around from dowel tile to Floor and Decor to the slab yard and it would take all day to do that, which was fine. I was happy to do it because I saw how it helped, because again, men and women, very different. You could take a man and a woman, and I can remember walking into Floor and Decor again before we had our showroom, and the lady going, "Thank God you're here. We've been here for 30 minutes and we have done nothing but fight. We don't agree on anything. Yeah. I hate what he likes. He hates what I like." Within 30 minutes, we had designed their bathroom, and they both loved it, and like, And so sometimes it just takes someone coming in and giving a different perspective and pulling everything together. It's a huge benefit.
A lot of people like to be led and just kind of say, okay, here.
Well, it's overwhelming. And I found that repeatedly, even as I was going to meet them and at places like the big box stores. You get in there, and there's a whole lot going on around you. There's a whole lot of people in there. It's trying to find somebody to help you, and there's just too many choices, and it's overwhelming. And so then it was Joe's idea. He's like, okay, I think it's time. Let's open a little showroom. Nothing fancy, but just something for you to be able to bring them in. Let's bring those vendors in that we're using anyway, and let's do a showroom. And so I said, okay, that makes sense. And so we leased a space. We started working on it. Again, humble beginnings. It was the ceiling was caving in. It was just so.
It was bad. But you know a guy that can fix that.
I know a guy. Yeah, but it took us a good probably almost a year because again, we're working full time. So this was just at nights, weekends. We hired one employee, and he started helping us, and it just kind of snowballed. But finally, about 9 months later. So on March 1st, 2020, we opened our showroom and quickly closed it. And quickly 2 weeks later had to close. Wow. But however, I will say it worked out because during the pandemic, we were able to bring clients in and we were able to mask up, by appointment only, keep our distance, and now we didn't have everybody around us. We weren't in a big box store. We were
that was
in the
probably
safety
a good
of our
opportunity for you to kind of get your feet wet with that whole process
with
your clients in the showroom and kind of, getting that systematically done because
it really was.
I think as much as quote unquote, and I hate the word essential, we were kind of considered essential in this industry.
Yeah.
Because, I did the same thing, went to the showroom, of course it wasn't it was quieter, but at the same time, people would come in, you almost kind of give them that just that one-on-one attention, you're just focusing on them. And I think it was good to be able to at least, build that rapport with that client a little better and then kind of just appreciate them as well as much because, we didn't know what was going to happen around the corner.
It was so uncertain. Yeah. The times were so uncertain. And so it worked out. And we kind of got our footing and like, okay, this is going to work. And we just kept building the showroom little by little. And then with my cancer diagnosis and the rug got pulled out from underneath us, right? We weren't in no way, shape, or form were we expecting that. Hold on a second.
Here we go. Let me throw you another curveball.
Pump the brakes. And so that became a whole like, okay, where do we go from here kind of thing. So, but again, the showroom was good to have because then when I was out, we were able to bring in designers and they were able to step in and we had the showroom and still make the appointments. And Joe was still able to keep the business going. My mom moved here from Waco to take care of me so that he could keep the business because that's it, right? That's our livelihood. Right. And so there was no way he could take care of me and run the business.
Walk me through that journey, Joe. Maybe you can tell me when this cancer diagnosis came about. I mean, obviously it huge curveball. Now there's uncertainty and we're trying to run your business and showroom and all. How did you handle that?
Had to adapt. Excuse me if I get emotional, but it was very hard because I was used to working side by side with Kim every day, and not having her there was very tough emotionally. But the show has to go on, so I relied on a lot of my guys. Gave them all the work that we had to do, and without them, we wouldn't be where we are right now.
Yeah.
So I really owe them a lot of gratitude, and we try to show them. But yeah, it was very hard.
Did faith play a big part in this as well?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, there were days when that's all. I look back and I would tell everybody. One thing I will say, if anybody ever, this is just a little side note, if anybody ever goes through breast cancer, any kind of cancer, for me, the biggest things were to always be positive, always. I'm not going to say I didn't have my breaking points and days when I thought.
For sure.
I mean, there were a couple of times, and I can vividly remember telling Joe like, I don't think I'm going to make it through this. I think this is it. I think I'm dying. I don't think I'm going to make it. But I would quickly try to, okay, no, I can't go there. I got to turn it around. And so having a positive attitude and having faith, because there were some days when literally that's all I could do was pray. That was it. That's all I had.
Isn't it interesting? We ran across each other at CBC, and Pastor Ed was talking about sometimes you get broken just so you can kind of get rebuilt, right? And you have to rely on the times that God's come for you, through you, and been there, and just kind of look forward to know that He still has your back, right?
Oh yeah.
And it resonates with me too because I have tons of testimonies where I know a guy has come in and helped me through my journey as well. But, and I've never dealt with a health scare. And I think that for me is the worst thing because it's like complain about little things, right? It's like, oh, I didn't get this job. Or it's like, man, at the end of the day, it's like your health is super important, right? And I just commend you for that. I think, and thank you for sharing too, because I think people need to hear that because there's a lot of times when we do get down, and whether it's health scare or personal, family issues, whatever, and people need to get encouraged by those stories, right? To make sure that, we can get through this. We can get through the other side of this,
Oh, yeah. We feel like we can get through anything now. I mean, and it's definitely changed us as people too. Yeah, for sure. I think for us, it's definitely changed us who we are. When you go through something like this, And what's crazy too is I had no signs, no symptoms. I was never sick. It was found by a routine mammogram, and I had a very aggressive form of cancer. And I had to go through very aggressive chemo. The chemo almost killed me twice. It wasn't the cancer that almost got me; it was the chemo that almost got me. And so when you go through things like that, and it forever changes you. So I had cancer, but I got through it, and I feel like I'm a better person for it because I look at life very differently now. I think we both do.
Right.
Look at it very differently. I think that we get, even before all that, like you work so hard on your business. I mean, you know this. Anybody that's in business for themselves, they know. I mean, you're working, especially him. And even through my, through when I was sick. He had to keep this business going. I mean, if for nothing else, for an $1,100 a month insurance payment that I had to have, health insurance I had to have. And so we had to keep going. And yes, our 3 employees, our guys are amazing, and they helped him and helped me, and we're great. But through all of that, we learned to appreciate things more.
For sure.
Each other, our children, our grandchildren, all of our family, friends. Oh my gosh. I mean, so many people came out of the woodworks. I say that like roaches. They came out. No, and I don't mean it that in a negative, right. But I mean, even I'm not from here. I'm from a little small town. And even the people from my little small town who stepped up for me, my friends from high school, I love them all dearly. And so many people, like it was after so much bad, right? That's all in the media. Bad. And then when this happened, I just felt so loved. You know what I mean? It just felt like there is still good in the world.
I think that's a testament, though, for you, because if you have impacted people's lives, and for them to come back out of the woodwork, out of the corners to come support you, that means you have actually had positive impact on them. So I think people don't realize that sometimes when we kind of isolate ourselves, it's easy to kind of get down. And that's why people, I think, suffer depression, they fail, or they get discouraged. But it's so important to have a community, a band of brothers by you all the time. But it starts with, obviously, you reaching out, right? You helping out, you taking care of people as well. And one of the stories I like to share with my grandmother who passed last year, my mom's mom, she was a super, super, super faithful person, and at an early age started a church, and she's from a small town down south in Hidalgo, Texas. And so she would always house like people that needed help. They'd come knocking on the door. She'd feed them. She'd give them clothes. She'd drive around, passing around Bibles, talking about God all the time. And this is, and even at an age at 85, 86, 87, she was driving around slowly, just still talking to people in the town. Awesome. And everybody knows who she is. And one of the moments when she kind of towards the end of her life, she was getting sick, and or she was sick. They took her to the hospital. They had there's so many people lined up in the halls of the hospital praying for her. Oh wow! But the testament is like she had so much influence on their lives. They were all coming back together to help her, to pray for her, and it was just, it's amazing to see. And it is not to say that some people, maybe naturally are just more introverted, don't have that power to kind of, connect or whatnot. But I think you still want to be able to help people regardless, right? And it's just a testament again to you, because you have people that support and care for you, because obviously you've been able to love on others as well. So I'm just so happy that you've gone through that journey, and
happy to be on the other side
for sure,
and happy to help others, who've reached out to me, who they're going through their own journey, because I had people do that for me.
For sure.
I met a woman from Minnesota who reached out to me with a card in the mail. She was a friend of a friend, and my friend had posted on Facebook about me and to pray for me, because that was when I was going through my toughest time, and I got this card in the mail from a stranger, and she's become a dear friend now. I've never met her in person, but I cherish her. And she was kind of my mentor, because she had been through it. Yeah. And so she's in Minnesota, and her name is Chris, and I love her. And she's and so I was like, I want to do this for others. And so I've been able to do that for a couple of other women, to help them and walk them through it. So
that's just it's interesting, the power of sharing your story, I think is important, because just to that point, right, you were able to touch someone's heart that you didn't even know, right?
Yeah, I didn't even know.
Touched. And to kind of lighten it up a little bit, whenever I did a video the other day about my stupid tooth that chipped or whatever, and I was kind of making light of the situation, as I'm trying to learn to let go of insecurities and just kind of be less self-conscious. And I think we all suffer from that, right? But I did get a handful of calls from some friends of mine that had seen the video on Facebook, and they're like, "Oh my God, that was like funny." But I said, and then they started telling me about their insecurities. I have an issue with this, and thanks for like sharing that. I think you're right
for being open.
And I'm like, man, yeah, that was the goal. I wanted to just say, screw it, nobody cares, man. And there's some people that worried about all the external stuff, and it's all about what's in here. And so when I'm chatting with my buddy, I'm like, one of my friends calls me. He's like, Hey, dude, I'm so glad that you're not worried about your teeth anymore. He goes, but what about your balding? I'm like, bro, I wasn't even thinking about that. I was like, no, he was joking. But I was like, okay, I got to do another video. But I'm trying to learn to get past all that as well. And I have got 3 boys, and they're getting older, and my family, that's what drives me as well. And I just, as you get old, you start seeing things differently. For sure. And, you're young, you're kind of like worried about the thing in front of you. Maybe you don't really look too far ahead, and I've still got a lot left in my tank, but I just I don't want to just kind of
see things differently.
Yeah, and
our perspectives change a little bit as we mature.
Absolutely,
I think so too.
Let me ask you a question on going back to Bexar Essentials. Like, so tell me what makes you guys different, specifically as a remodeling company. I mean, you guys specialize in just kitchen and baths, or do you do full-blown construction?
We do full-blown construction, but we like to
interior.
Well, basically interior. But I guess what really changed our mindset was when the pandemic hit. I mean, the phone just wouldn't stop ringing. Yep. Everybody was at home looking at all the different projects. They're like, well, we're home now. Now's a nice time to go ahead and pull that trigger. So our phone would not stop ringing. And I told Kim, I said, this is just too much. One day we're building fences. The next day we're installing cabinets. The next day we're painting rooms. I said, this is not going to work. We're going to run our guys into the ground by putting them on all these different projects every day. So we figured, okay, well, what is going to be the best impact for the home? So we decided kitchens and bathrooms. That's what sells homes. That's what the women love, which are the women are the ones who make the decisions on what projects get done in the house. Right. So then we just decided, let's just focus on kitchens and bathrooms and do them well. So during the whole pandemic, that's what we did. And we just continued that journey with kitchens and bathrooms only. But now, since we're growing, we're starting to open up the scope of work to other things as well. Right. We're still not advertising it. So we're offering it to the clients that are actually wanting to contract with us. And they're like, well, what else do y'all do? So we tell them we can do pretty much anything. Right. But still try to stick to the interior only. We don't want to step outside because it's just a whole different animal working outside. And we subcontract that out. Right.
I think a big benefit from what I see and knowing you the past few years is they have owners, but an owner too in yourself that, man, you've got calloused hands. You've been working on this. This is your craft. This is your trade. Because you see a lot of companies in different industries and, let's say, roofing. I mean, that's a random one, but where you get owners come in and they do these fly-by-night deals, and you don't really know, what kind of quality of work you're going to get because they sub everything out. There's no vision. There's no passion. There's no blood. There's no love for it. And it's just a business to make money. And when you have a company like y'all's, but a person that has been on their hands and knees, that's been, blood, sweat, and tears, and that's there, that you're going to get a quality product, obviously. And you're going to have someone that's a craftsman. That's a lost trade, too, because there's not a lot of craftsmen anymore in this industry. It's all about let's get something done quick, fast, and make as much money as you can. Then what happens? And then you get a crappy product. People start complaining, and then that guy's doing something else, selling cars now. But it's like having this history that you have is a huge credit for you, and I think that's a big benefit, selling point. In my opinion.
Right.
Because you obviously look like you love what you're doing.
You're saying I look rough?
Well, I said your hands look rough. But are you doing more marketing now? I know you're building your team and you've got your employees, but are you trying to do more of the marketing now, networking, or are you still kind of hands-on?
Still leaving all that up to Kim because she's more the social butterfly than I am. But I have been able to free up a lot of my time by not being in the field, so relying more on our workers. We gave one of our guys a role of project management. So nice. He's controlling a lot of what happens in the field, and I communicate with him, and he gets to be my eyes and ears out in the field.
So important. Do you all have? I think you had mentioned y'all have a business mentor coach. Now or a coach
business
that
coach.
Helps. I think it's important to have some guidance sometimes because from a business 100%. Standpoint, because you can do your craft all day, all night. You can do your designs all day, all night. But from a business standpoint,
we didn't go to business school.
No. Well, it's the doctors are notoriously bad business people. They're great at actually taking care of you, but their practices sometimes fail because they don't. So they hire business consultants, business people to come in and run their business. Has that been a big benefit for you
Huge.
guys?
Oh, yeah.
Huge. I mean, and taking Joe out of the field, it was a necessity because he does our estimating. And so not only that, he was fielding calls. He was doing part of our books. He was invoicing. He was billing. He was doing all these things, whereas I'm over here doing marketing, payroll, design, all that. And so he was still working 12, 14, 16-hour days, and our business coach was like, no. The main reason we hired that business coach is because I want to say at my breaking point. I was happy to be back. I was so happy to be back when I was able to come back after being sick. But we had no work-life balance. And after that whole experience, I had told Joe, I said, if I make it through this, we're not going to work ourselves to death. I am not going to live to work. I'm going to work to live.
Right.
And we don't have to be rich. We don't, just like you said, anybody who goes into this for the money is, and I don't know, that's just not why we do it, right? And however, as we were growing, and things were going, the contracts are coming in and all of that, but it was overwhelming him, overwhelming me, but I don't have the background that he has and the expertise that he has. So I he's estimated for 30 years, he knows how to do all these things. That's not something I could help him with. My scope of, knowledge is here and his is here. And so there was only so much I could do to help him. And so with the business coach, one of the things he said, and he asked, what do you want out of this? And I became very emotional. I said, I want my husband, I want a work-life balance. We love our company. It is our passion. We love our employees. They're like family to us. We treat them well. We pay them well, all these things. But he can't keep going like that. Because like I said, we're getting older. He can't keep working 12, 14, 16-hour days and getting up, going home, working, sleeping 5 hours and getting up and doing it again. He can't continue at this pace. And so he helped us to be able to say, okay, here's how we're going to do it. And then it's like a light bulb. Why didn't we think of that? Because we didn't.
You're like, okay, we don't need you anymore.
So no, he helped us to get things on track and figure some things out. And since then, we have brought in my sister, who has over 20 years experience in the mortgage business, processing loans, but working with custom builders and things like that. So she's very organized, all these things. And so a lot of the office details, the clerical things, so she's our project coordinator, keeping up with the materials and the orders and things like that. Bookkeeping and QuickBooks.
That's a lot to take care of.
It's a lot to take care of. And she's been able to come in and take a lot of that off of his plate so that now, don't get me wrong, he still works probably 12 hours a day, but we're working on minimizing that and getting to a point where it's manageable and where the business works for us, and we're trying to work smarter, not harder. We're not there yet, but we're taking those little steps, those baby steps. In other words, we have a vision and we know where we're going. Right. And I feel like we have the right people, employees with us now, that someday we're going to be able to just work 8 to 5.
Or maybe not work as much.
Or 9. I don't go in at 8. But anyway.
What do y'all do for fun? Let me ask you that. What's your passion or hobby?
Well, I like to fish.
Oh, nice.
Definitely.
You want to buy a boat? I've got a boat I'm trying to get rid of.
Maybe let's talk later. We had a boat and we loved it.
Yeah. But our grandparents, our grandsons keep us real busy.
Oh,
that's one thing that we do.
We're not there yet. That's awesome, and that's good. It kind of gets you reinvigorated, right? When you got
well, you have to be. They're 3 boys, and so they're all energy. Yeah. And the youngest is autistic, so he's like the little Tasmanian devil. He's all over the place, But they're fun, and we love spending time with them. And one of them loves fishing. One of them hates it, but one of them loves fishing. So he's always, when can we go fishing? When can we go fishing? But we do little what we call adventures with them. Mm-hmm. So we plan weekends. We plan things to do with them, with the family. We go to the Spurs games.
Oh, Spurs fans?
Yep, Spurs fans.
Did you go last night to the game?
We did not.
Yeah, I went. Have season or half season tickets.
Oh, that's how we are. We have the weekend package.
Do you really?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I split them with someone, and we did like a draft. We just picked games, and I had Fridays and Mondays. My son loves to go, and the first time I took him, the Wimby didn't play, so he was like bummed out. And so this past time, I had Friday and Monday. So I told him I have 4 tickets, and I go. I told my wife, like, you want to go? She's like, no, we'll take the boys or whoever wants to go. And she goes, but make sure to take him when Wimby's going to play. I'm like, I don't know when he's going to play. I was like, it's just a crapshoot. So we went Friday, and he got to play, and of course Spurs lost. And then yesterday, my buddy, I invited him to go, and he's like, "Oh, excited!" You know, I was like, "Okay, cool." I hadn't been in a game. The last time him and I went to a game together, if you remember the .4 game with Derek Fisher, beat us 20 years ago. So him and I had gone together with some friends, but that was at the Alamo Dome back in the day, and I remember that game vividly. He was like, "Oh," and so I just reached. So he was one of the guys that I chatted with about my tooth. I was like, we kind of got reacquainted, and he's like, "Hey, bro, you want to go to the Spurs game?" He's like, "Yeah, I haven't been." And Wimby didn't play. So he was like, ooh, he looks tall, but anyway, I like the Spurs are kind of interesting to me because I went through a season. Well, if you're old Spurs fans, you know all the greats, right? And the way the game was played and whatnot. And up until 2020, I had tickets also. And then, of course, when COVID hit, we kind of just stopped. But that was the time when Manu retired, Parker retired. And then this whole new kind of like, batch of faces is like, I couldn't get into it for some reason.
It's hard.
Until the account manager reached out last year. He's like, "Hey, man, if you want to get tickets again, you better get tickets because we might pick up this guy Wimby." I was like, "Nah." I was like, we probably won't get him. And sure enough, right when they drafted him, I called him. I was like, "Dude, I told you, man, they're running out." So we ended up getting tickets again. So it's fun. It's kind of cool to go out and a lot of times just and even just to give them to clients and stuff. But they'll have a good team hopefully in the next year or two.
I think so. I just want to tell him, I'm like, give him a couple. He's like, I don't know. Maybe we should give up our tickets. They hardly want any. I'm like, no. I'm telling you, give them a couple of years. It's going to be good. But we enjoy that, and we enjoy going to the coast.
So do you have a boat, you said, or no?
No. We used to a long time ago.
When our kids were little. That's how, when you have 5 kids, you have to be creative. So, they're expensive. But one of the things we did, because again, I was working my full-time job. So I would get the tax returns, right? He was business for himself. So one year, again, we lived very... very frugal, conservative lifestyle. You have to when you have that many kids, right? But I can remember one year, got my tax return, and I was like, you know what? I'm gonna buy a boat, and I did. And so we used that. We drove the heck out of that boat. I mean, we literally
Was it a freshwater boat or?
It was just a little ski, a little freshwater ski boat. But we got the little passes to the Calaveras Lake and Broading Lake, the little season pass, and that's what we do on the weekends. We would take our kids, everybody load up, throw them all on the boat, and they loved it. And that's how they grew up. And they'll tell you that some of their best memories. Yeah. Going to the lake and going fishing. And all our kids love to fish still.
It's something about fishing, though. Like, it's cool to get out there and just enjoy just relax. I suck at fishing for some reason. Like, I can never catch anything. I'll tell you real quick. When we went to New Mexico a couple of weeks ago, we went to this spot called Alto Lake. And my son loves to fish right now. He's in this fishing mode right now, and so he's all excited, and got all his gear that he took up from San Antonio. And we get to this little pier, and we all drop our pole, like our bait and everything. And my other son caught a fish like that. Yeah. And then so we're still casting, and then 2 gentlemen just show up, kind of as the sun's rising, right? And they're just walking past us, and they sit by this bank, not even 50 yards from us. Mm-hmm. Within an hour, they were catching fish left and right. 15, 16 fish. I promise you. Wow. And we're still like...
Nobody.
We're like, what?
Hello?
I was like, but like some people have this knack, right? Mm-hmm. So I go over there and I walk to him. I was like, hey, how you doing, sir? I was going to so I see you're catching all this fish. What's your trick? What are you using? He showed us what his bait was. And I was like, I think that's what we're using too. And he goes, actually, that where you guys are at, that's usually our spot. And we catch from there all the time. I'm like, really? So I go back and I told my son, and now we're all like determined, we're going to catch it. This mindset changes because like you see the fish, but like, what do you have to do? Mm-hmm. I think I just don't have that, that ability to catch it for some reason. I'm the opposite of the dog whisperer, fish whisperer, like goes away. But what was cool though is like my oldest son, who he he spent most of the time helping like everyone else with their poles, the girlfriend, my other son was catching fish left and right. My wife caught a fish and he was just like looking around like all upset. And then till finally towards the end, right before he left, he caught a monster like 17-inch, trout.
Wow.
And he's like, Dad, we're going to take this to cook. I was like, let's take it, bro. Let's go. So we took it, and that was the highlight of the trip for him because we did a lot on that trip, but that was his thing, and there's nothing greater than when you see that joy in your kid's face, there's little things like that. Going back to like how you start seeing things differently.
You do.
The fishing, spending the time with the grandkids. I mean, that's,
so important.
You have to, because work is just it's just, someone told me, and I've shared this before, and this gentleman's actually in his 90s, and he still golfs, plays bowling, plays poker, he's living life, 92 years old. But he told me that he didn't start to live life until he turned 70.
Oh, wow.
That he realized that basically something flipped and said, okay, let me start enjoying life. And I don't want to wait till then.
No, us either.
I don't want to wait till then.
Us either. And we love traveling and going on cruises and things like that. And so I've told Joe, I'm like, this is... I'm determined. Like, this is what we're going to do. And so we try to book one at least once a year. And on
a cruise? You like cruises?
Love them.
Yeah. We've done one once.
You have?
Yeah.
I think it comes from, again, having 5 children and being poor. That was the cheapest way for us to vacation because it's all inclusive, right? Have you ever fed 5 kids like at one meal? I'm like, man, they'll eat their ticket price full of food the first day.
Yeah.
This is a bargain, right? So that's kind of where it came. But we went on our first cruise, and he's like, I don't know if I'm going to like this. But he loved it. And so,
it's fun. It's tough getting away and turning everything
off. And that's what's so nice.
That's the hard part.
Yeah. So that is the hard part. And so that's one of the reasons why he did it too, because when you're on a boat, you have no choice. You turn that phone off, right? And so it forces you to be like, okay, because it's so easy. You can go on a trip. We've gone on trips. We've gone on vacations before. But
you're still on your phone.
That phone is still on. Yeah. And when you're on a cruise, you're out in the middle of the ocean.
You got no choice.
You got no choice. So just sit back, relax, enjoy the ride, have a good time, and that's what we love it.
It's hard. That was like when I first did my first cruise. This was like 10 years ago, though. When the phone got shut off, and I'm like, I was like,
almost panicked, right?
No, I did.
That's what he did.
There's a picture of me though. It's funny because when we went on an excursion, we'd kind of climb these little ruins, and I had my phone.
Yeah,
it was like cell reception down right at the top, and I'm like, my wife's like, what are you doing? What are you doing? Like, enjoy the moment.
Like, this is why they built the pyramid.
Yeah. But it's funny because it's hard to like get this part of unplugged, and I'm learning to do that more often, now. But it's a challenge because it's, when you have your baby, which is your business, you're always worried like, if someone tries to reach out to me and I don't get back to them, and then I worry about, them getting upset or, and what drives me is and I feel like my goal is always to take care of my customers, do whatever it takes. But, I've got a handful of bad reviews, but I want to learn from that. And it's usually something more on the communication side.
Yeah.
And that's the one thing that I always try to encourage business owners. Like, don't ever feel like you can stop learning or that the way you do it is the best way to do it. Always try to learn, grow, and adapt and evolve. And sometimes like the negative feedback, which I welcome, is a good way for you to learn and build, right? Because you're always like, oh, okay, good job. Oh, good job. Okay, cool. No, you know what? First of all, a lot of it's good job because of my installers, my guys. You're only as good as your guys. Is like, kind of like what you were saying earlier. But when you get that little feedback, for me, it's just like drives me to get better. Like, I don't want that, Anyway,
and we've had a couple of that too, and it's been miscommunication or things like that too.
It's never. You're never going to have a perfect company.
No,
you're never going to have a perfect business. But if you truly, intentionally want to take care of the customer, you'll do whatever you can.
Yeah.
And sometimes people maybe don't appreciate your efforts, and that's what it is.
Yeah, I think sometimes too. And here's the thing too, is people don't get this about small business owners and how many hours you work and all these things. some of the miscommunication happened when I was sick and he was handling the business all by himself and working, again, still 14, 16 hours a day, whatever, and coming home and taking care of me or stopping by the house and checking on me, coming to the hospital and staying the night in a chair while I'm in a bed, and things sometimes slip through the cracks. And you never know what someone's going through. So sometimes show a little bit of grace, but
that's the hard part though, because
I think so.
Because customers don't see that, and
they don't see that.
So we have to always try to put whichever customer it is first, right? Yeah. Make them feel like they're the priority.
The only ones, right?
But without them knowing kind of what's going on in your story, what you're dealing with.
It's hard, and you got to think about. When you're like, for us, I know for us, and I can't imagine the stress that he went through while I was sick, because he wasn't just worried about me, but we also have employees, right? And so even when you're going on vacation or you're doing whatever and you're thinking about your business, because it's not just us.
Sure.
We have, 4 other families from our employees that depend on us to bring in these jobs, to do a good job, to get paid, to make payroll, to do all these things, right? It's not just us. It's our whole company, and then they're part of our family,
The biggest thing you have to do is take care of your people first.
Yeah.
And that's whenever I started off on my own, I told my wife, it's like, I don't care if we don't have any paychecks, if I got to take care of them because they have families.
Yeah.
And if you don't look out for them, they're not going to look out for you.
Oh,
As soon as you build that, and I've always been blessed to have really, really good guys that work for me, and but mainly because I've always taken care of them every week, every Friday, and never have I tried to undercut them or shortchange them, or because of the fact that they have their and not only that, they freaking work hard and they make you look good. Why would you want to shortcut somebody? You know what happens when you start doing that? They don't work for you. Someone else comes in, does a crappy job, and you're going to get what you pay for.
Yeah, and they're going to leave you and go somewhere else and be an asset to somebody else.
Yeah, and then all of a sudden, just this whole structure of your business starts to fall apart because your foundation wasn't based on true values, right? Of taking people and taking care of people. And that's so important. I mean,
so important. And that's what I told Joe from having the boss that I had before. And he's had bad bosses before. But, I knew from having a couple of bad bosses and having really great bosses in the past, and we knew what we wanted to model ourselves after. And I would never treat somebody the way that my last boss treated me. I would just never do that. I would never disrespect somebody and treat them that way. So we've always tried to lead with that. Because I've always heard that saying, like, people don't leave bad jobs, they leave bad bosses. Right. And so we try to be good to our guys. We try to love on them and do things for them and recognize them. And, and I mean, they're, they're part of our family. So.
Kim, Joe, you did a really good job. Thank you for being so vocal today.
He's like, come on, are we done?
For being so loud. I appreciate you guys, and Bexar Essentials Remodeling. You guys are doing great things. And whenever I do get people that ask for help that maybe needs a bath or kitchen remodel, I will say I know some guys